13 weeks under what has felt like house arrest in Morocco, with a number of camels called Hamish, Alistair, Hector, Hunter and Callum, which I'm sure is a treat for the locals. Good morning to you, Alice.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Are you in Morocco right now?
I am sitting looking out at the Atlas Mountains. I'm in a very small Amazigh Berber village, and I live in a family compound above a cow, a lot of chickens and one rooster who you might hear. He's very noisy.
Gosh, it's been a fantastic morning. We've been in Seville, we've been in Jerez, we've been in Granada, and now we're in the Atlas Mountains. We're transported. It's fantastic. Is that home, or is that where you happened to sort of find yourself when you had to lock down?
It's home, actually, and I, like many people, I think, I didn't realise really what Corona was going to be, and I flew back to Morocco on the 14th of March. I'd been up to see my parents in Edinburgh, and I flew back in on the 14th of March. And as I landed, literally, I'm a warden of the British Embassy, which means that I help if there's any nationals stuck in Morocco or any problems in my area. And as I landed, I got this email saying the borders will be shut tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Try and get any British nationals in your region out. So I was like, oh, okay then.
And so for you, as an explorer, an adventurer, whose life is kind of built on travel, what did that mean?
Well, for the past 13 weeks, it's now been lifted for just under 2 weeks, but for the past 13 weeks, lockdown has been very, very strict in Morocco, even stricter than Scotland. It has been that we were not allowed to leave our houses at all, except for essential shopping, in my case, or key workers, including farmers and shepherds, because I live in an agrarian society, and medical care. So for 13 weeks, I have been locked in my very small house, but with a very lovely view, looking at mountains that I can't walk in. And psychologically, it's been extremely difficult. No outside exercise for us.
Right. And have you had contact with other people? You said a family compound?
Yes. Now, the weird thing, so you know how it is, you always want what you can't have. So I've been watching everyone in Scotland running over the hills and feeling so envious and jealous all through lockdown, safely, I have to say. But that's been the thing that I've really lost and missed and has been difficult for me. But what I have had that I'm very strongly aware that people in Scotland don't have is contact, because I live with 25 people. So I live in an extended family. There are 4 husbands and wives and their children. The oldest man in my community is 93, and the youngest baby is about 6 months old. She's tottering around a little bit at the moment. So I'm living in this very warm and loving human environment, which has been fantastic.
But this is going to sound a dreadful thing to say, but they're not your family, not your blood family anyway.
They are not my blood family. My blood family are the Morrisons, who are currently, as I say, in Edinburgh and also spread all over the world. But yes, these are my kind of adopted family. So I rented my little house. Mm-hmm. I call it a house, but it's really a flat, as I say, above the cow, and it's attached to all the other buildings in the compound. We have a joint kind of front yard, a big open space, and we're built into of the walnut trees out my bedroom window, and I look down onto the valley below and onto the peaks, and then there's a big gate at the end of the compound which shuts us in. So that's what we've been shut in for 13 weeks.
So how have you been spending your time?
Well, I started off so well. I started off so well. I got in, I thought I have got this cracked. I contacted all my old friends who I hadn't spoken to for ages, mended relationships. I worked out twice a day, not with Joex, just on my own, on my balcony. I even managed to lose 6 pounds in weight because I kept an eagle eye on my diet. And then Ramadan struck, which, as you know, means fasting between the hours of 4 in the morning and 7:30 p.m. at night. And a big shout out also to all Scottish Muslims who probably had to fast for longer because you have slightly longer days. Yeah. But what that means is you can't eat or drink during the day. So that, and of course I have to observe it because I'm in a community where everybody observes Ramadan. I'm not a Muslim, but how could I possibly have a cup of coffee or even a glass of water water and 3 dates, and then you have soup, and then you have your meal. But then I'd come back into my own house and I'd cook up a storm of shortbread biscuits. So I just got really fat and lazy.
With a casual reference to Joe Wicks or whatever, and then you're making shortbread biscuits. What kind of blended life you have there?
I think I'm very lucky, but I think this is not untypical of many Scots. I mean, we're a fantastic nation of travellers. We really are. If you look at the statistics, I once read that at least a quarter of Scots are actually abroad at any one time. So I think it's very normal for Scottish people, especially to travel and to be away. And of course, with the internet now, I have excellent internet here, which has been the blessing of life. So you can keep up with everything, and that's been fantastic in lockdown. The only negative I would say is that sometimes, and this actually applies more to the UK-wide news, especially to, I'm sorry, but to England, is that sometimes I've just looked at the news and I haven't been able to believe my eyes. I'm like, we're in a pandemic. What are you doing? Why, 2 weeks ago, we're staying in our house and now people are congregating very closely together, and it worries me. But apart from that, all is good.
Well, then, of course, that's the environment you used to work in, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Now the environment I work in is either plodding across the desert for 3 months or, climbing up a very large mountain, panting for breath. So, yes, I've swapped crowds for really a lot of wilderness.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were working at a very high level in the corporate world in a number of different roles. Until when?
So goodness me, 2011.
Right.
Was actually I had quite a big job. In fact, I'm kind of fibbing because I had a large job until 2013. But my biggest job stopped in 2011. I was a chief executive, and that ended. My company had to fold thanks to the Conservative Party, and instead of making that very negative thing, I made it a positive, and I cycled across Africa and started becoming an adventurer full time.
And had that always been a dream of yours, or was that just a sort of spur of the moment decision?
Well, actually, both of those things. So what happened was I was the chief executive of a media development quango, so I was investing in the media industries. David Cameron came into power in 2010 and said, I'm going to abolish all quangos, which meant that it was very difficult for us to continue. We merged into a larger quango, still very technical, and I took that opportunity. So I made myself redundant, and off I went across Africa. And I'd been brought up in Africa, so for a long time I'd wanted to go back and try and recapture some of my childhood. And I saw, but the spur of the moment thing was I saw this bike race. The internet is the devil's tool, let's be honest. I saw this bike race on the internet which said, this is the longest bike race on earth. It's 3 times longer than the Tour de France. It goes from Cairo to Cape Town. You should do it. Well, it didn't say you should do it, but obviously I decided I would. So I signed up in November, started on January the 6th, and my training consisted, it was a very heavy winter of snow, so my training consisted of me on a turbocharger in the sitting room watching Strictly Come Dancing.
My goodness, and a new life was born.
It was. It really was born. And, there's been a lot of bends and twists in the road. There is often blockages. What I find my biggest struggle is I have to constantly pitch ideas and sell myself, and sometimes it's just a tumbleweed in the inbox when nobody replies. But of course it's worth it. I'm lucky. I'm actually living a dream.
So would you now describe yourself as an adventurer, as an explorer?
Yes, I would. And what I did to help myself on that path was I just started signing my emails, Alice Morrison, adventurer. And because I'd self-styled myself, I then had to do adventures to live up to it. So that's a little piece of advice for you. If you want to do something, say you're doing it, and then you actually have to do it.
Yeah, stick the name badge on, and then, well, there you are. That's what you are. But
exactly.
You have absolutely lived up to it. So over the last 6 or 7 years, what have been your most memorable trips?
I've done lots and lots, and I think the one I finished this year, actually, fortunately, just before COVID. So on between November last year and February the 12th this year, I walked 1,000 miles across the Sahara Desert with the aforementioned camels and my 3 Amazigh guides. And that really was a very tough, extremely tough undertaking because we only survived by begging water from the nomads that we met en route.
Wow. So, I mean, what have you, I mean, it really is a sort of tale of two lives, isn't it? What have you gained from the last 6 or 7 years that was different from a highly successful corporate life that you were living before?
I love both, and there is stability, which is also, a reality for lots of people, working 9 to 5, earning money, contributing to society in that way. But I think what I have really enjoyed about being what I am now personally is the connection I have with nature and the environment, and also meeting all the new people that I meet in different countries and improving my languages and just learning about myself and about how to see the world differently and how to use that. And perhaps an example I can give you here, I live in a very religious country where they believe that, you're in the hands of God. And what that translates to in a very daily practice, for want of a better word, is patience. I am not a patient person. I think often if you've had to strive hard to achieve, you're quite an impatient person. I'm used to getting things done. I'm used to succeeding. I'm used to reaching my goals. I'm used to, if an obstacle's there, I overcome it. What I've learned through mixing with the people I mix with, especially my Amazigh guides on this desert expedition and the draw before that, is that you cannot control everything. And sometimes all you can do is be patient, act as best you can, but just be patient and let things unfold. And for me, that's been an incredibly useful lesson, and useful during COVID.
Well, that's what I was going to say, a very useful lesson for the last 13 weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't mean doesn't mean it's easy. It really isn't easy. I find it very difficult, but I do recognise now that patience, which I previously would have thought was a bit of a, if someone had described me as patient, I would not have taken it as a compliment. I'd have been slightly insulted, actually. And now I'm like, thank you very much. Yes, I am learning that one.
So, despite that, though, have you got trips planned for whenever you might be able to carry them out?
Well, obviously, if I hadn't got a trip planned, I'd probably have had to jump off my terrace into the walnut trees. So yes, and in fact, 15th of August, keep your fingers crossed for me, because the borders within Morocco are now open. We can't travel outside, but our internal borders in our green zone, i.e. where there's not infection, are open. So Reef and Atlas Mountains to the desert capital of Ouarzazate, where my adventures began in Morocco. So I am so excited. So that is 50 days with the camels across the mountains.
Fantastic. And we will no doubt be able to read about it. You do have a podcast, Alice in Wonderland, and also Adventures in Morocco, which is your book. So Alice, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you this morning. We wish you all the best. What a remarkable story. Alice Morrison there, whose family are all sitting in Edinburgh while she's sitting